Recording in progress.
Sharing my screen and we'll get started. So today, inshallah, we'll begin with, today we have a very easy session, inshallah, and hopefully a very blessed session. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Most of the students will get, you guys will get your, alaikum salam zahir. I know you guys will have your midterms today, so I wanted to make the session a little bit easy today, just in case you had, we have a little bit of time for questions and answers. So today we have a really beautiful session, inshallah, on Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala. So we're going to talk about Muhammad ibn Ismail ibn Ibrahim ibn al-Mughira ibn Bardisbah, rahimahullah ta'ala. So that is his name, Muhammad ibn Ismail ibn Ibrahim ibn al-Mughira. So he comes from the territory of Bukhara, which is currently where is the country of Uzbekistan. And his grandfather, al-Mughira, used to be a fire worshipper who embraced Islam. So this is the territory of Bukhara. So you can see Bukhara right here in Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, not far from the city of Samarkand. So this area, not far from Afghanistan, is a very blessed area when it comes to Islamic scholarship. And one of the reasons is because of this man. So he was born in almost 200 years after the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ in 194. His nickname was Abu Abdullah, and his father, Ismail ibn Ibrahim, was a student of knowledge. So his father had studied with some of the great scholars in his era. Among them was some of the really big names that were known at that time, Hamad ibn Zayd and Imam Malik, for example. So the father of Bukhari, he studied with Imam Malik, or he had an opportunity to learn from the great Imam Malik. He also traveled with the great hadith scholar Abdullah ibn Mubarak. And it's been mentioned about his father that one of his very significant qualities, and this is something known about Imam al-Nawawi as well. So it was said about the father of Bukhari that he once said, I know the source of every single coin that I have in my possession. Okay, and what does that mean? I know the source of every coin in my possession. Very good to hear that he was focused on halal earnings. And when you compare that to today as an example, the way that people behave today when it comes to their finances, that the most important thing for people today is earning money, okay, in any way possible. So people want to have money, halal or haram. They don't care. The most important thing is that I have money. That's the way people are behaving. And you look at the way that some of the early scholars of Islam, how they implemented knowledge. And this is one of the big focuses that we have to have is that when we learn all of this information, what good is the information if we don't put it into practice? What good is recognizing the blessing of halal earning? What good is understanding what is a haram earning if we don't implement it? And so you see how these people, as simple as they were, that they had a very, very big focus on this issue to make sure that they didn't bring anything haram into their house. Because if you bring haram into your house, then you eat from it. That means the flesh that grows from it is haram, and so forth. And it has a long-term impact. We look at the diseases that we see today. A lot of the scholars, the older scholars that are alive right now, people who are in their 80s and 90s, they remember another era. So these were people who were dealing with society, way back, for example, in the 1940s and 1950s. And they said there's such a huge difference right now between life in that era and life today in terms of disease. They said everybody's sick. And people are always going to the doctor and always going to the hospital. And this is something that I see as well. How is it possible that people, or does it make even sense that people have to go to the hospital so much? People have to be in the emergency department so often. People have to go, the doctor's offices are full. You call right now to make an appointment with the doctor, and they will tell you, well, the doctor is busy. He can, his schedule is full. He won't be able to see you for another um, 2 months. Would you like to make an appointment today for June or for July? How is it possible that people became so busy like this with sickness? And that is because of the prevalence of the haram. Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, so his father passed away when he was very young, when he was a baby. Okay, so he grew up as an orphan, and his mother was the one that was in charge of his upbringing alone. And so when he was very, very small, he lost his eyesight completely. He became completely blind. Subhanallah. And his mother had hoped for him to become, a scholar. And so she continued to make dua, and the narrations on this issue, or the texts on this issue, state that she made dua for like 3 years for Allah to give eyesight back to her son. 3 years. So again, you see here that the difference between that era and this era, that the sicknesses that exist today, that people are themselves sick or their children or their families are sick. And so a person might make dua a few times, maybe for a week, maybe for a month, maybe the very, very, determined, they might make dua for a few months. But 3 years, you see the determination that she had and the faith that she had in Allah Azza wa Jal. And furthermore, when we look at the effort that she made, there is a lot of people today they're saying, oh, well, why is the situation in Gaza happening, and how can we help them? But very few people are willing to wake up in the middle of the night to pray tahajjud. Very few people, and yet we all know. So if again, the difference between knowledge and action, if we ask anybody, if you ask someone right now, hey, I want a dua to be, I have a dua that's very important to me, and I want Allah to accept it for me. What do you advise me to do? People will say you should get up in the middle of the night and you should make tahajjud because this is the best time. This is the time that Allah is closest to the heavens of the dunya, of this world, and that He comes every single night in the last third of the night, and He asks who is awake, and calling upon me that I can respond to his call, who is asking something from me that I can give it to him. Very good to hear. It's like an arrow that doesn't miss its target, the tahajjud. It's like an arrow that doesn't miss its target. And yet, people don't do it. So someone might have a sick child. Someone might be desperate to get married. Someone might be desperate to find a job. Someone might be, what have you of the needs. But we don't do this. We don't get up in this part of the night to ask Allah Azza wa Jal. And this shows again the weakness of our determination that we really don't want these things. Because if you really wanted it, then you wouldn't be able to sleep. You would be waking up and asking Allah Azza wa Jal. So in any case, not only did Allah grant her dua, but when her son's sight was returned to him, it was returned perfectly. It was returned perfectly. And so he had perfect eyesight for the remainder of his life, subhanAllah. To the extent that it used to say that he would be able to, he didn't even need a candle to write at night, that he could write by moonlight, subhanAllah. That's how strong his eyesight was. When he was 11, so when he started, his mother, she put him, as I said, his mother, she was taking care of him, and she put him in the lessons when he was young. He memorized Quran. There's some differences in the text on this issue, but somewhere between the age of 6 and 10 years old, that he memorized the Quran, the entire Quran. And this is something which is not remarkable. This is something that still happens today in some Muslim countries, that young kids at that age that they memorize the Quran. And so that you see again the emphasis on the Quran, that the sciences begin with the Quran. Okay, that we don't go and start other things first. We study the Quran first. And when people come and they ask me to say, "What do you recommend I start studying?" I say, "Memorize Quran." The reason being is that, right, I ask you guys to take this to heart, is that if you sit down and memorize Quran, okay, let's say you do that for 6 months, and then you give up. Life intervenes, you get busy, you have to, there's financial pressures, there's family pressures, there's whatever pressure, okay? You still have 6 months that you memorize Quran. And in 6 months, for the vast majority of people, they probably would have memorized in the neighborhood of 5, 6 juz minimum for the vast majority of people. Okay, so even a person who's really kind of struggling with their memory or something like that, 2 or 3 juz in 6 months, memorizing 15 pages a day, 15 pages a month. I'm sorry, 1 page every 2 days. So the person who's dedicated to memorization, they would have memorized 3 juz of the Quran. That means they would have memorized 1/10 of the Quran at minimum, 1/10 up to 1/5 of the Quran. So if life intervenes at that point in time, you say, I cannot continue my studies. You at least have this. You have the Quran that you memorized. You have this Quran that you can pray with. You have this Quran that you can stay up at night and recite it in your salah. But if a person goes and he studies, for example, Arabic grammar, or they study any other science, and life intervenes, what are they going to get? The grammar is going to stay with them? No, it will not. Nothing's going to stay with you like that. And that's why the origin and the foundation of all Islamic studies is the Quran. So he memorized the Quran early. And again, let us remember the impact that this woman had on his life, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that she was the foundation for him, her son. And so for the sisters that are listening, that it shows the importance and the importance of your mission as a mother, that far more important than the few dollars that you might be able to bring home is the fact that you are the foundation for the society. So when you spend the time and you make sure that your children are educated properly, then society succeeds. And this is the whole problem that we have today in the world, is that the women, they abandoned their main mission, which is the building of society. So a woman wants to be recognized for having a career. She wants to say that wrote this book and I did this and I did that. Whereas, what did this woman do? The mother of Imam Bukhari. What did she publish? What career, you know, uh, accolades does she have? We don't know anything about her. We don't even know her name, right? We don't even know her name. But she brought forth and she was the support and the pillar for one of the greatest human beings that ever existed on this planet. And he wouldn't be the person that he was had it not been for her. So we need to remember that on the day of judgment, the degrees that a person has, the diplomas, these papers that people have, they're not going to have any value. It's about what did you do that remained? What actions did you do that continued? So don't be misled, don't be swept away by what society is asking from you today, because society is confused and it's essentially worshiping shaitan. This is the best thing that you can do, and there isn't anything better. You are the foundation of society. You are the ones that create a righteous society by making sure that your children are contributing to that righteousness, subhanAllah. And so she also, after he finished the Quran, she registered him in the classes of hadith. And she wanted that because, again, this was her choice, not his choice. Okay. This was her encouragement. Okay. Because of the rise of the deviant groups like the Khawarij and the Rafida and so forth that started coming up at this time, the people of Hadith were the people who protected Islam. They were the guardians of Islam. And so registering in Hadith studies was something that was significant as a defense of this ummah, subhanAllah. And so one of his early teachers was Imam al-Dakhili, rahimahullah. Al-Dakhili, rahimahullah, was a scholar of hadith in Bukhara. And remember, Bukhara was a big city, and he was narrating hadith. And one day in his circle, he narrated a hadith with a certain sanad, chain of narration, to which Bukhari, as an 11-year-old, objected to. So Bukhari pointed out that the chain of narration that Imam al-Dakhili rahimahullah had reported was incorrect. So Dakhili was kind of surprised. And then when he went back to the book, he found himself to be incorrect. And Bukhari was correct. So al-Dakhili, he asked for the correct chain of narration, and Bukhari was able to verbally give the entire chain. So at that point in time, he recognized how Bukhari was going to go forth in this world and do a lot of great things, subhanAllah. It is said that at this point in his life, as an 11-year-old, that Bukhari had memorized along the lines of 7,000 hadith. Okay, 7,000 hadith as an 11-year-old. And again, so we are now, you have many people in this ummah that they reach 70 years of age, okay, and they couldn't even name 11 hadith. They couldn't tell you 11 hadith, and we're talking about the matan of 11 hadith, the text of 11 hadith, okay? Not the entire chain of narration and the text. So again, what we could be doing if our kids weren't wasting time on Instagram and YouTube and video games and things like that. How different, the society would be, subhanAllah. So he continued studying hadith in his locality in Bukhara, studying Islam as a whole, of course, not just hadith. So he'd memorized the Quran, he was studying hadith, he was studying other sciences, and then he went at the age of 16 for Hajj. SubhanAllah. Again, you think like most people today, they're like, oh, inshallah, when I become 60, I'm gonna go make Hajj, right? And here you see the intelligence. And this is what I always tell people is that if you're young, go make your Hajj when you're young because you're able to act upon the Sunnah. You're able to do the Hajj the way the Prophet ﷺ wanted us to do it. But when you become an old person, then you have to take license on everything because you can't do it. Hajj is physically very, very difficult. It is a strain on the body. It's not something easy that for people to do. As much as Saudi Arabia has simplified it, in the modern days. Okay, it used to be much, much harder, 25 years ago. But the idea is go when you're young so that you're able to do it and you're able to enjoy the Hajj instead of it being an absolute misery for the person who is old, who struggles with everything. There is a second point. I want you guys to tell me what's the value of this. So he went to Hajj and then he stayed there to seek knowledge. Okay, so his goal was to fulfill the pilgrimage, fulfill the rights of Allah upon him, and then he decided to stay there to seek knowledge. So why go to Mecca to seek knowledge when he was living in Bukhara? And in this, there is a very, very important lesson for modern times. A big mistake that a lot of people make. So for sure, there's a lot of scholars that were in Hijaz. Okay, so you look at the students, Imam Malik were in Medina. You have the students of some of the great tabi'een, for example, Ata ibn Abi Rabah, the great scholar of Mecca, that was had already passed away, but his students, the students of Abdullah ibn Abbas, the people of Tafsir, all these people were there. So you had huge numbers of extraordinarily high scholarship that were living in Mecca and Medina at this time. So that is why he went there. But why did he leave Bukhara? The point I want to make here is that a lot of times people, so I see this all the time. I just recently saw it where I'm living right now. That people will say, "Oh, inshallah, like next year, I plan to, go here to study Islam. I plan to, travel to this location to study the Deen, or inshallah, like my goal is in a couple of years I'm going to go to Medina and study Islam, or I'm going to go to Al Azhar and study Islam after this period of time." What happens is that people they neglect the fountains of knowledge around them. So he exhausted the knowledge that was in his locality before he went to the Hijaz. He exhausted the fountains of knowledge that were available to him in his locality before he traveled for the sake of knowledge. And this is a very, very important lesson to be had. And is that and it's one of the tricks of shaitan, okay? That shaitan will come to a young person, typically the young people like this, and say, oh, mashallah, you need to go to like this place. And so if you go there, you will have, you'll be able to get a really good Islamic education. And, inshallah, like, you'll be able to meet with so many great scholars. And so, and what happens is the person, again, puts their intention out for this and they ignore the people of knowledge around them, and maybe they never go. Maybe they never go. Maybe that plan to go in 6 months or 1 year, it never materializes. Again, the world gets in the way. Life gets in the way. Right now, maybe a person is 20 years old or 17 years old and saying, "Oh, inshallah, my intention is to apply for, the program in Medina." But then one of their parents dies, and then he has the responsibility of, you know, financial to basically take up a job in order to provide for his family. Maybe he gets married and he has a child and he says, I can't leave my wife and my child now. How can I go to another country and leave my baby and my wife, and I'm gonna go for 4 years and abandon my no, I cannot do that. This is what happens. This is always what happens. Life gets in the way. Okay. And these aren't bad things. Okay. So if a person got married and he has a child, there's nothing haram there. Nothing evil happens. Okay, it doesn't mean that they're committing sin. If the one of their parents passes away and the person becomes, financially responsible for the other parents, none of this is a bad thing. The reality is that this is the life. This is what happens. So his mother, Zahira, she went with him, but she went back. And so from there, there's different, of course, regarding this history. It appears that she went back, to her home, and he stayed there to seek knowledge. And but she did not stay with him. Wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best. So the interesting thing here, though, is that so right now, as an example, people tell me this all the time. I have trouble, reading Quran. Okay, I'm struggling with the reading Quran. Okay, and so these people, they think that they have to go and study under a sheikh who has ijaza, certification in the Quran, and he has a very high level ijaza. First of all, explain to me why somebody that has a high level of ijaza is going to sit with you, okay, to teach you how to pronounce ayn correctly. Why? Like that's not it doesn't make sense. It's like saying right now I want to go to a professor at MIT to teach me algebra. A physics professor at MIT to learn algebra. That's not his job. Okay, his job, he has limited amount of time, and that limited amount of time is for the people who reach that level. But again, this is the tricks of shaitan that he throws in our way so that we completely abandon. As an example, when I was studying Quran in the very beginning of my life, there was a brother living in the I don't even remember his name, subhanallah, sadly. Okay, but I remember he was from Iraq, and he was Arabic speaking brother, born and raised in Iraq, and one day I was sitting in the Quran in the masjid and I saw him sitting and reading Quran and I said, "Can you help me? I'm really having a hard time reading Quran. I don't know how I make a lot of mistakes in pronunciation. Can you sit with me and learn?" He is not a scholar, but he is somebody who is an Arabic person who knows how to pronounce things correctly in Arabic. He knows how to read Quran. He's not a sheikh of Quran. He's not a high level person in anything. But for me, as somebody who has literally zero knowledge and very little ability to sit with him, I benefited so much. He brought me up to his level. So when I got to his level, then he said, Alhamdulillah, now you're good. I can't help you anymore. You're now like me. I can't help you. If you want more, you have to go to somebody better than me. And that's what I did. I went to the next level until finally I went to a sheikh that has ijaza. And now I'm trying to get to the point where I'm proficient, that I will be proficient enough in the Quran to be able to teach others. And that's the steps that we take. Just like right now, when you want to learn your basic math and basic grammar and things, that you go to the elementary school teacher, and the elementary school teacher is able to bring you up to that level. Now, if you want to get to the level of a college education, the elementary school teacher is going to say, "Hey, I can't help you anymore. You need to go higher." And so you go to the higher level. Then you learn from the college professor, and then you want to learn more even. So he says, no, you already, I cannot help you any further. Now you have to go to a master's or PhD level, and so forth. And so this is the way it is with Islam. Do not abandon the people that are around you. Each and every single one of you right now, there are people in your local community that can help you to increase your knowledge, help you in things like reading Quran, help you in things like improving the nature of your prayer or making your prayer better. Don't abandon these local things because again, what happened? It's almost like somewhat of an arrogance to abandon these types of things. And again, that this is why so many people they miss out. And so many people, they have these good intentions that never materialize. And so you see that person who intended to go to Medina and he abandoned all of the people in his community that were people of knowledge, that had some degree of knowledge. Okay. You see that same person 10 years later never went to Medina, now working a job, has no Islamic knowledge, has no ability to, read Quran properly and so forth. Why? Because dreaming the pipe dream. And so you see here that how these people like Bukhari, they wouldn't go. He could have gone earlier. He could have gone when he was 14, when he was 13. He could have said, "Mom, let's go." The great scholars, Dad, he studied with Imam Malik. Let's go to Medina and we can so I can learn I don't need this Dakhili guy who is making mistakes. Okay? I'm going to go to Medina so I can study from the great scholars. No, he recognized that everybody makes mistakes. And he had a great deal of love for the local teachers that he had. And so this is, again, a very, very valuable lesson that all of us have to kind of put into place to make sure that we learn from the local sources first. So people started narrating from him when he was 17 years old. And in fact, he said that he would not teach. He refused to teach hadith until he had, I think he memorized 100,000 authentic hadith and memorized 200,000 weak hadith. So he memorized 300,000 hadith by the age of 17, 100,000 of which were authentic and 200,000 of which were weak. And he said, I refuse to teach until I reach this level. So, first question, why he's memorizing weak hadith? Why? Because it could still be valuable because the errors could be the way it's narrated. I don't understand what you're saying. Still be valuable because the only problem with these weak hadiths could be the way it narrated. So a weak hadith is a weak hadith. You cannot say, well, there's a problem in the chain, but the meaning is valid. No, that's not what we're talking about. You have to know the weak hadith because what if people are using weak hadith? You have to be able to tell them, no, this is not a valid hadith. And so that's the problem is that there's a lot of people that they base part of their religion on a weak hadith. Okay. They base it. So as an example, I shared this with you guys before, is that once a sister contacted me in the community and she said, I need someone to talk to my husband because he keeps hitting me. And so I contacted her husband and I said, what's the story? And he said, it's my business. She's my wife, it's my business. I said, no, it's not your business. I said, it's your business. Other things are your business, but when you're physically hurting her, it becomes it doesn't become your business anymore. So he told me, he said, well, it is my business because the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith which is recorded in Abu Dawood, a man should not be asked about hitting his wife. A man should not be asked about hitting his wife. Is this hadith found in Abu Dawood? in the collection of Abu Dawud. Very good, Zahira. It is found in the, so why is it found in the Sunan Abi Dawud? It's an authentic hadith that we should men should be allowed to beat their wives and nobody should speak to them about it. So why is it there, Sahira? What do you think? Why did Abu Dawud choose to include this hadith? Because he's a wife beater and he wants to have evidence for he wants to put that hadith in his collection so people will not ask him about beating his wife. Why? The reason for this is that this is, you see, the wisdom of these ulama, the wisdom that they had in selecting the hadith to put in their books. So as we just said, like we're going to find out in a moment, Bukhari included something like less than 3,000 hadith in Sahih. Okay, Sahih al-Bukhari, when you take out the repetitions, it's less than 3,000 hadith or thereabouts. Okay, he knows 100,000 authentic hadith. Why did he choose 3,000? Because he's writing his book with a purpose. Okay. And Abu Dawood, the same thing. Abu Dawood, he said, I memorized 500,000 hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. And from that I selected, what's in my book. Okay, 4,000, I think he has 4,000 some in his book. And he said if you want to kind of summarize everything in my book, we can summarize it in 3 or 4 hadith, okay, in terms of like the importance. So they had a methodology. So Abu Dawood, he put this hadith in there and he commented on the weakness of the hadith. He commented on the weakness of the hadith so that people would not use that as an excuse to beat their wives. You see? He included it and he commented on its weakness so that it would not be a source or a support system for people to abuse. And so you see that the methodology again that they had, that they included these things. So he saw this hadith, he knows it's weak, and he says, but this hadith, but some fool might use it later on in history, and he say, I'm beating my wife, and don't get in my business because this is none of your business, just like this guy. Okay, so that we recognize, no, this is valid. This is not valid. The Prophet ﷺ, in fact, he was, we look at the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ on beating, and we see that it is very uniform that he was against it. In fact, there was once a woman that she came to the Prophet ﷺ in his, she came to seek advice, and she said, 2 men have proposed marriage to me, and I want your advice. Okay. So he said, regarding the first one who proposed to you, he's a wife beater. So I don't recommend him. Okay, so again, if wife beating is something we don't talk about, okay, then he's gonna say, oh, yeah, he seems like a good guy to me. Go for it. But he told her from the beginning, he's like, this guy's gonna abuse you. I don't recommend him. And he said the other guy doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together. He's poor. So neither one of them is a good choice for you. One guy's a wife beater, the other guy's poor. So you can't support you. Okay. It sounds like the options that many women have today, right? So you choose between two evils. There's no. So when he was 18, rahimahullah ta'ala, he started writing regarding the disagreements of the shi'ukh. So we see that his intellect and his knowledge, mashallah, in hadith and in fiqh, it reached this level, subhanallah. It reached this level by the age of 18. So I think about 18. So 18-year-old people today, I'm saying these are people who are, they're sitting and playing, I talk to these kids, they're spending 12 hours straight, playing Halo and playing these, video games. They don't know anything about anything. They don't have any knowledge about anything. And this man, subhanAllah, at the age of 18, he's already writing books about the disagreements between the shuyukh, what the shuyukh disagreed upon in regard to their their in fiqh matters and hadith matters and so forth like that. In fact, at the age of 18, he wrote two books while sitting next to the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina. One of them was called Al-Tarikh Al-Kabir, or the you might call it, like, in translation, the Great History, okay, which discussed the qualities of the hadith narrators, okay, a book regarding the qualities of the hadith narrators, and the other was called Qadaya al-Sahaba wa Tabi'in, the method of the companions and their followers, which praised the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and spoke regarding their trustworthiness and knowledge in a time where the deviant ideologies started to take issue with the Sahabas. Remember, at this time, at the in his lifetime, so we're talking about right now, you know, it's something like the year 212, the year 212 in the Hijrah, that at this point in time, the deviant ideologies are starting to take place. So people are, this is when the Rafida, or what we call today the Shia methodology, this ideology started to take hold, and other deviant ideologies, they started to take hold, and these people, they were criticizing. So among, again, the Shia are many different ideologies, but um, one of the things that is their hatred and their censuring of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, that they used to say evil things. They say evil things about the companions. And when I say this, it's very, very important. A lot of people, they jump with it when they get this knowledge. They kind of jump and they run with it, um, to a place where they shouldn't. When we talk about like Shia as an example, okay, we have to recognize that there is a difference between the individual and the methodology. Okay, as an example, if you go to a masjid, okay, today, any masjid, pretty much anywhere in the world, okay, you might be praying next to a person who's Shia, and he's praying with you in a Sunni masjid. Okay, and do you think this person is a scholar of the Shia, methodology, or a scholar of the Shia books? No, he's just a person who grew up in a Shia family, and he was told that's what he is. But he knows I'm Muslim, and so he said, "It's Friday. I need to go to the Friday prayer, so I'm going to go to a masjid." He has no concept. Okay, as again, like most Sunni people, they don't really know much about the religion either, unfortunately. So in this case, it's fortunate that many Shia people don't know much about what are the underpinnings. And so, had this person, if you took this person and kind of explain things to him, very likely he would disagree. So it's as I tell people, be gentle and be careful when you talk to people, and don't jump right away to be critical, or to be aggressive towards somebody, because the vast majority of people I have met personally in my life who are Shia, they don't know anything about what their scholars talk about. All they know, I am Muslim, I believe in Allah, I believe in the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I'm supposed to pray 5 times a day, I'm supposed to fast the month of Ramadan, I'm supposed to give zakah, I'm supposed to have good manners, and this person is a Muslim, okay? This person, if you tell him, Wallahi, Abu Bakr, he did this and we should do it, he will tell you, okay. You tell him Umar ibn Khattab, said this hadith, and so this is why he's going to do it. He's not going. He doesn't know anything to. But the scholars among them, that's a different story. So the scholars among them are the ones who attacked Abu Bakr and Umar and Aisha, radiallahu ta'ala anhum, and said evil things about them. And so there's a difference between this and that. And so in any case, we talk about the fact that he wrote, like, again, like, what have people who are the age of 18 today, what have they accomplished with their life? And we look at this man, rahimahullah ta'ala, that he sat and he wrote 2 books while sitting next to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. So look at your life and say, okay, what am I accomplishing with my life? What have I produced? This is something I always talk to my son about, production. What have I produced? On the day of judgment, Allah is going to say, okay, you had so many years. What did you do with these years? So what are you going to be able to say that you did with those years? What product do you have? You know what I'm saying? What have you produced that you can say, oh Allah, I did this? So the product can be different things. The product could be, for example, oh Allah, I was committed to da'wah, and during my lifetime, alhamdulillah, I had 3 people accepted Islam from my effort that, by your mercy and through the effort that I made. Um, by Allah's mercy, of course, and then the effort that we make in da'wah. And I stayed with these people, and I continued to help them until they became well established in Islam. Is that a product? Is it? Yes, it's a product. Okay. Did you produce something? You can say, oh Allah, this person, he became a Muslim because I spent so much time, talking to him and trying to, show him the right way. Okay. So a product can be a book. Okay. A product can be sadaqah jariyah. Okay. Oh Allah, I worked. Okay. You gave me a job and I worked and I went and I planted or I planted trees around the world, or I contributed to the building and the digging of wells. That's the product. Okay, you come on the day of judgment. Oh Allah, my wealth. I dug 3 wells in my lifetime. Okay, that provided water to people. Oh Allah, I supported the printing of Qurans that were distributed. What was the product of the mother of Imam Bukhari? Her son. Okay. She said, "Oh Allah, I made sure that my son that he grew up in your worship. That I encouraged him and I gave him all what he needed and I pushed him and I encouraged him so that he would become a servant in your deen." So this is the thing. So ask yourself, okay? Absolutely huge ajr for her. And that's again why I tell people don't be misled. Okay. So a lot of the quote unquote career women today, okay, what do they have? Their product that they have, okay, I have a lot of papers that I wrote, I have diplomas, I have X, Y, and Z, but look at that compared to the mother of Imam Bukhari as an example. Now again, what about the woman that never got married? Okay, the woman that never got married, different story. But again, we want to look at the vast majority of women, that the majority of them, they have children, okay, they have families, but many of them today are ignoring their families in pursuit of quote unquote careers. And as a result of that, their children grow up, and so what they're actually contributing to the world is corruption. They're contributing illness or sickness or a virus to the world, okay, that is their child. Because if you don't take care of your child, okay, and your child grows up to be corrupt, then you have basically inserted a virus into the world, okay? So instead of building the world, instead of contributing to the world, that child of yours is destroying the world. And again, that will also be something that we will be responsible for. And when I say the mother is because again, because of her great role, but the father is also responsible. So the father who continues to support his corrupt son, okay, who is a virus on the earth, okay, by giving him money and giving him cars and giving him things like that to go and disobey Allah, he is responsible. So if your child is someone who is going around doing evil things, then don't support him. So Zahira's point that no one today wants to marry a homemaker. Many men want a woman that has a job and brings in money, and that's again because of the disease in so many men. Okay, that he doesn't want to support the family on his own. He wants someone else to support the family. This is because of immature or irresponsible men. So the responsible man, again, this is part of the ghira of the man. We can go back to this science that is completely dead in all respects today, the science of rujula. Okay, so there is a science in Islam called the science of rujula, or the science of being a man. Okay, and part of that is having this jealousy regarding your wife. So the normal man, when I say normal, they don't exist, many of them today. This is normal for throughout most of history. And this is again something which is not unique to Islam. It was something that was found in all societies. So if you go back a few hundred years to Europe, you'll find the same thing. Even though they don't have any Islam, you'll find it. You go to China, you'll find it. You go to Africa, you'll find it. Many places today, it still exists that are not even Muslim. But the sad thing is that in the Muslim countries, subhanAllah, in many of the Muslim countries, it's also been killed. This idea of the person being jealous over their wife, that this is my wife and nobody should be looking at her, nobody should be interacting with her, nobody should be, because this is my wife and you don't have a right to, talk to her or to look at her and this type of thing. But now you see that many men, they're saying, no, no, honey, go out, get out. You need to get out in the world. 6 o'clock in the morning, you're late. Get out. Go to work. I love your high heels. You look really nice. Go out with your high heels. And this makeup that you have on your face, it really brings out the your eyes. Good job. I'll buy you more. This is the thing. This is apart from ghira. This is not from the ear of a man. Absolutely. Who are teaching these types of things, the influencers. But regarding a man that he is encouraging his wife, okay, to go out in this manner, okay, then this is not from the manliness that existed before, where people they didn't they so you look at the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, that again that the woman, she beautifies herself in the home for her husband, and she is plain outside when she goes outside. Now, in this disease society that we live in, it's the opposite, right? So women, they beautify themselves outside, okay, for the strangers, for the strange men, and their stupid idiot husband who's standing next to them outside in the society, he's got a dumb, smile on his face, okay, because he's happy that his wife looks beautiful outside, and then when she returns home, she washes the makeup and she walks around in dirty sweatpants and t-shirt, okay, and this is how she is in the house. So she's plain on the inside and beautified for the outside. This is the absolute opposite of what we're supposed to do. And any man who is pleased with that is a man who has lost this sense of rujula. It doesn't have it anymore. And for those of you that interact, Sister Layla, I'd be interested, if any of the people who are listening on your network, if they have any comment on this, as non-Muslim people who grew up as non-Muslims, okay, how they feel about that. My experience talking to women who have accepted Islam is that this makes them feel happy. Okay, they say I feel good when my husband doesn't want me to be beautiful outside. I feel really good when he wants me to be beautiful on the inside and he doesn't want me to be beautiful on the outside, because then he means he cares about me. That he has this jealousy over me. That he doesn't want people to look at me. He doesn't want people to have these strange men to have interactions with me. So he wants this. This is something that I found among talking to people who accepted Islam, that they were very pleased by, when they accepted Islam, to find this return to the fitrah, the return to the like natural disposition of the human being, is that this is the way things should be. The woman should be beautiful for her husband at home and be plain on the outside. And this shows again the concern. So if anybody on your side, Sister Leila, has a comment on that, I would appreciate it. But in any case, I'm not sure how we steered on that topic, but the science is called al-rujula. So I will write it for you. Manhood, yes, or manliness. جزانا وإياكم. Any comment on that, Sahira, as a woman? Of course, some men, but don't let the oppression of a man, change the nature of the topic. But it's true. Some I like that word, champions. That's a very nice word, mashallah. That's a very um, chivalrous term, mashallah, championed, and that's the concept. And again, you look at even if you look at royalty, royalty, from the medieval times in Europe, when a woman went out, a royal woman went out. Did she go out in public, just kind of just walking around like on her feet in public? She used to be in like a carriage or some type of enclosure. Okay, people would come in to meet her, and she will not go out to meet them. This is the royalty. Okay, this is how the royalty used to behave. Nobody gets to see them. Okay, unless you are invited to come in to see them. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, it's beautiful. Alhamdulillah. So you look at that. I mean, so if you look, even if you go back to you know, so any of these types of medieval times, this is how royalty was treated. And so again, you look at how Islam treats the woman; she treats her like that, like she is some form of royalty. Inshallah, I'll let you know, Zahira, for sure. So that's the aspect of it, okay? And so this is where we should be treating women like that, okay? That the man should be, recognizing that. And again, we look at how Allah mentions, the woman in the Quran, saying that, what she has given to the husband is, and again, that the husband has to treat her in a certain way. So coming back to Imam Bukhari, so the total number of shuyukh that he took from was over 1,000. He actually learned from over 1,000 shuyukh, subhanallah. So you see the level of devotion that he had. So in fact, he stayed in Hijaz for some time, and then he started traveling to outside of the Hijaz to gain further knowledge. Okay, so he documented hadith from over 1,000 scholars, and at that time, the kind of like the center of knowledge in the Islamic world in his era was Baghdad in Iraq. And so that became the center of hadith studies following the death of Imam Malik. So during the life of Imam Malik, it was Medina. After Imam Malik, rahimahullah, died, it transferred to Baghdad, and Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, was there. And also, it was the area of Imam Ahmad. And so Bukhari, he met in Baghdad, he met people like Ishaq ibn Rahaway, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and so forth. And it was in the circle of Ishaq ibn Rahaway where Imam Bukhari heard from his teacher how it would be great if some student, would make a compilation of the most authentic and reliable hadith on every topic in the most concise way that every Muslim can benefit from. So it was Ishaq ibn Rahaway who had the idea for al-Jami' al-Sahih, which is what we call Sahih al-Bukhari. So having this book that was organized. Now, Zahira, can you remind me what kind of hadith book is a Jami'? Does you remember? So we have Musnad, we have Musannaf, we have different styles or different categorizations of hadith books. So what is al-Jami'? This is the most famous kind. So Jami' is a hadith collection which is according to topic. Okay, it is organized according to topic. Okay, and this is so it was Ishaq ibn Rahawayh rahimahullah ta'ala who had this concept, and he gave the idea in class to to the students, among them Imam Bukhari. Why doesn't somebody get the hadith, look at all the hadith, and make it easy for the average Muslim that on every single topic, so we look at the topic of purification, that we have the most authentic and reliable hadith in a concise manner, not in an exhaustive manner, not encyclopedic. Okay, so look at the Musnad. Musnad as labels more encyclopedic. Okay, but Jama is compilation, and so in this case, to be concise. Wouldn't it be great if somebody would do that? Okay, and so there were two people that did that. It was Bukhari, and after him, Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj, that they both came with the same effort, okay, to compile a book of hadith for this purpose. So now we will talk about, let's see here. So he spent time in Baghdad, where he studied, okay, under these great scholars, and he spent a good deal of time there. Um, so what happened was that when he was in Baghdad, there's a very interesting story about how he was tested. Okay, so some of the scholars there, they wanted to test Bukhari. And so he went in front of a council of 10 ulama, and they wanted to test him. So what they did was each of the 10, they gave him 10 hadith. Okay, so how many total? There's 10 scholars, and there's 10 hadith in each one. 100 hadith, okay? So he was given 100 hadith, one after another, okay? Yes, sir. Very good. So he was given 100 hadith. Now, what they did was, okay, imagine this. Okay, they distorted, they were testing him. So what they did is they completely mixed up the mutun, okay, the chains, with the text. I'm sorry, the asanid with the mutun. The chains were mixed up, okay? So they took a chain from Hadith A and they put in the Hadith B, and they put the chain from Hadith B onto the Hadith A, and so forth. They made this big mix for him, testing him to see if he would be able to figure out the mistakes. Okay, where the mistakes are. So after listening to all 10 scholars, he told them, he said, as regards the first teacher, the hadith that he mentioned to me, first hadith, he mentioned, so he told them how they had said it. So look at his memory, subhanAllah. He told them, this is what you told me, and this is wrong because of one, two, three. He went and he corrected all 100 hadith after reporting to them how they had mentioned it to him, subhanAllah. Can you imagine how strong of a memory that has to be? Now, a lot of people would say this is like photographic memory, right? And it's not really that case. Okay? It's not that case. I'll give you an example. Okay? Um, let's use something that most of you are probably familiar with. Okay? I will say to you this. Okay? There is a movie. Okay? And in this movie, it is the story of I tried to find something very obvious that most of you probably are familiar with. Okay. Uh, in this movie, there is a man who puts on, who has an accident, and he develops an iron suit causes him, that allows him to fly and to be able to deflect weapons. He's able to shoot power beams from his hands. Okay, in as part of this movie. Okay, and this movie it's starring Sylvester Stallone and and his partner in the movie is Reese Witherspoon. Okay, um, so you will say no, no, no. So what movie am I talking about? Iron Man. Okay, so most people immediately you'll say, "Oh, you're talking Iron Man for sure." Is Sylvester Stallone the actor who portrayed Iron Man? No. Okay. Who is the actor? There you go. So you know all this information. So my son is answering these questions as well, and so he does. If I ask him hadith right now, he will not know anything. Will have no idea about the names I'm referring to. This is all foreign to him. But he memorized all these names. And you guys know, okay, so right now I gave you a chain and I gave you a text. Okay. So you said, oh, I know this text you're talking about. This is the story of Iron Man. And the characters that were involved or the actors involved are X, Y, and Z. You know that. So right now, if I tell you, and there's another movie in which, another famous movie, you will know it. So it's the same thing for for us we know movies that well that right now if I told you 100 movies you could say, oh, I know all these movies you're talking about right now. Or for some people you tell them songs, you can literally tell them 100 songs and you mix up the lyrics and they'll come back and say, no, no, you're wrong because the lyrics to this song are this and this. Okay, you're actually mixing the lyrics from this song into this song, right? And there's a lot of people who do that today. Lots of people, they have these, I remember growing up, and dating myself a little bit here, but they used to have these competitions where they would play like 3 seconds from a song, and you would have to recognize what song it was, and people would call in and they would say, "Oh, this is the song you played." From listening to 3 seconds, or sometimes even less, 2 seconds, literally playing 2 to 3 seconds of a song, okay, and literally hundreds of people they know the answer because this is our culture. Our culture is what we are taught, okay, what we learn movies, we learn these stories that have no value in our life, okay, exactly, and it's everywhere. It's not just it's every country. I'm sure they have it in the Arab countries as well, and in African countries. It doesn't matter. It's everywhere in the world. That we are the society today is a society which the shaitan has completely deceived, and this is what we know. We know things that have no value. That on the day of judgment, what value is it going to be for me if I know Robert Downey Jr. or Sylvester Stallone or the 3 seconds of this song or 1 second of this song? How is that going to help me? It's not going to help me at all. It might, in fact, be against me. It might be something that will be counted against me. So Bukhari, his life was hadith. He lived these hadith. This is something that he was very familiar. The actors that were living in his lifetime were the narrators of hadith. So it's not so complicated for him. Okay, that's why I wanted to show you. I wanted to give you that example so that you're able to see how. Okay, it's not that difficult because you guys immediately know what I'm talking about. Okay, very good. Excellent. So Zahira, if you guys can't see her comment, she's saying it's a reality check because we think that our memory is bad. Because we look at this, oh, mashallah, Bukhari, he memorized, 100,000 hadith. I'll never have a memory like that. The reason is as you mentioned, we're using our memory in the wrong place because we're using our memory to memorize songs, to memorize movies, to memorize lines from how many people today. Okay, if you look at any given country, like I can see this happening very commonly in the United States. There are people in the United States, many of them. It's not one or two, kind of prolific people talking about many people that they literally have memorized the lines to movies. You can tell them a line, literally, you tell them, what line does this movie come from? And he'll tell you because he watched these movies so many times, okay, that he memorized the lines to the movie, subhanAllah. And these people, they don't know one single ayah of the Quran because that's where their memory is being used. Their memory is being, right now, I can guarantee you, okay, for the vast majority of you guys listening in this class, especially the ones in America, if I start playing a song right now, okay, you'll be able to sing along. And again, it's some of it sometimes it's not because you listen to songs, sometimes because it's something that you hear all the time. Like right now, if I start singing Christmas songs, okay, how many of you are going to be able to sing along or the words to Christmas songs? And we're all Muslim, but we literally know Jingle Bells and we know, Silent Night. And we could go Christmas caroling right now, all of us, okay? And we're all Muslim. But you ask the same person who tell me, can you recite Surah Al-Anfal? Doesn't know a single word from Surah Al-Anfal. But we know Christmas carols because this is what's happening in our society, right? And so that's again like reality check. Okay. Reality check it. Where am I putting my effort? Where am I putting my mind? Allah gave me this computer, okay, this brain. Where am I using it? So ask yourself that question. And this is why some people, when they come in and tell me I'm having a hard time memorizing Quran, okay, I told them, listen to it. If you right now try this, I want every one of you to try this, okay? Take a surah that you really want to learn. Take a surah that you really want to say, for example, I want to learn Surah Al-A'la, okay? Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la. Okay, I want to learn this surah. Just get the recording, go on YouTube or something like that, get it, or there's so many places online right now you can download, MP3 of whatever surah you want from the Quran. Put it on repeat, okay? Put it on repeat while you're at work, while you're at home, while you're cooking, while you're cleaning, while you're, mowing the lawn, while you're working on your car, whatever you're doing, okay? Just put it on repeat, okay? Wallahi, I'm asking you, be honest with me, all of you. How long will it take you to memorize it just listening to it so many times? A week of doing that and you memorize the surah? 3 days? 2 weeks? What do you guys think? Another good day. A few days, okay? Few days for the most people. Maybe for the people who maybe their memories needs to be challenged a little bit. What do you guys think, Sister Layla, on your end? What do your listeners think?
Others because you might have mistaken pronunciation and somebody has to do the same to you.
Yes, sure.
So you'll learn it wrongly, maybe also.
No, you're listening to it. So right now, if I'm listening to it, how can I pronounce it wrong if I'm listening? But again, so if nobody's listening to you, okay? So the question is, but if I'm not reciting to a teacher, okay, maybe I'm making mistakes even though I've memorized it. What's better, that I memorized 95% or 90% correctly, or I didn't memorize it at all? Right? Yeah, remember, okay, if at least if I have it and I go learn from the teacher might fix some of my pronunciation mistakes, but what's memorized in my brain is that I'm listening to it, right? So try reading the surah before you go to bed every single night. I promise you, in 2 weeks, you won't even need to look at the book anymore. You won't even need to look into the mushaf. Okay? It's that easy. But again, what's happening is that when we are listening during the day, we're listening to music, we're listening to, these types of things that's occupying our time. Okay. And so as a result, we don't memorize. But again, if you surround your life with Quran, if you're always playing the Quran, okay, in the background, and you're always like hearing it, you're going to pick it up. My father, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was not somebody who sat down and studied Quran once in his life, okay? He never sat down officially, like formally, opened the Quran to start and to memorize it. But my mother, every single year when she would play the Quran, she would always have Mecca TV on, okay, at home. And so people go around the Kaaba and the Quran is being recited. Okay, those of you who have seen Mecca TV. So the Quran is being recited, and my father, he knows the ayat. He knew from the whole of the Quran. He knew a lot of the Quran just from hearing it again and again and again and again. So a person who never made an effort to memorize Quran, he memorized Quran. Very good. This is the scholar. This is not the. I mean, he is a scholar, of course, but he's the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. He said two things will never coexist in the heart: the love of music and the love of Quran. the love of music and the love of Quran. So if we a person who loves music, okay, it'll be very hard for this person to memorize Quran. And so we have to get rid of that love of music so that we can have the love of the Quran.
Yeah, listen to and to do something else always
Yes.
disrespectful to Quran.
So okay, so another good question. So someone's saying, okay, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنُ فَأَنصِتُوا لَهُ. Okay, so if the Quran is recited, then you should pay attention to it. Okay, so if I'm playing it in the background while I'm cooking or while I'm cleaning or while I'm, you know, using my 3D printer or I'm working on my car or something like that, am I disrespecting the Quran in that case? What do you guys think? Okay, Zahira says, I don't think so. Sister Leda, what about your group? Anybody on responding from their side? Even the person who places it in the shop or a market, okay? What it comes down to is the intention. Okay, what it comes down to is the intention. If a person is saying, you know what, I'm not going to be able to pay attention to 100% of it, okay? But I want to play it because when I am paying attention, maybe if it's only 30% of the time or 40% of the time, inshallah, it will help me to remember. It will help me to remind myself of the Quran. Okay. If I even if I hear it, even if I'm paying attention only 40% of the time. Okay, better 40% than 0%. Okay, so again, this is sometimes the trick of shaitan. Shaitan comes and says, no, you can't do that because it's disrespectful to the Quran that you play it in the background, or you're not paying attention, or you're talking, or something like that. But again, the intention of the person, why is the person playing it? So that he will develop the love for it, that he will or she will learn it from hearing it so frequently. If that's the intention, alhamdulillah, inshallah, then you're doing something good and you will learn it. You will learn the Quran. Again, I'm telling you that this is something which is happening every single day, that people are learning Quran this way. People are memorizing the Quran this way. Now, again, it's not structured learning. It's not like the person who sits down with a sheikh or sits down even by themselves in the masjid and they sit and they try to formally memorize. Okay, so this person might memorize few ayat here, few ayat there, and so forth. But when that person sits down to formally memorize, it's going to be so much easier, right? Because you're dealing with something that you already know. So right now, Iron Man, okay, maybe you can't tell me the whole story A to Z, okay, of Iron Man, but you can tell me a lot of it. You can tell me 50% of the story, okay? So right now, if I say, okay, now I really need you to memorize it. I need you to tell me, I'm going to test you on Iron Man, okay? So you're going to sit down, you're going to watch the movie. One time, that's it. You're going to say, okay, I watched it one time. I took a couple of notes. I got the whole story. I can tell you even the lines in the movie now, right? This is the majority of us. We can say that the whole thing because the story was there. It's just that okay, I forgot a couple of pieces here and there, but now I'm just quickly I watch it. Okay, now it's back. I got the whole thing. I know it all, and that's the same thing here. And so again, yeah, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, to Allah belongs the greatest example. So I'm using these silly examples because they're how we live, right? This is the stuff that we're living with these days, and we need to kind of be aware of that. Coming back to Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, Sister Layla, how's your group doing? They're silent. I hope I didn't offend anybody or push them away. Which one?
Like, which one?
So now we come to let's see, we're gonna come to I'm gonna come back to this slide. Okay. So we talked about the trial in Baghdad, or the test of Baghdad. We're gonna talk about Naysabur a little bit later, and the end of his life and returning to Bukhara. Alhamdulillah. So let's talk a little bit about the book, okay? About Al-Jami' al-Sahih. And so we talked already about the motive behind writing it, okay? And Ishaq ibn Rahaway. So the name of the book, Al-Jami' al-Sahih al-Musnad min Hadithi Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa sunanihi وأيامه. Okay, so it is the abridged collection of hadith with connected chains regarding the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ and his traditions and his days. Okay, so or his times. Okay, so remember that when we talk about musnad is that it's you're using the narrator. Okay, you're taking from particular, so you're organizing it according to the narrator. Okay, so this book, it is a combination of two styles. Okay, of hadith a collection, which is jama and musnad. Okay, and we talked about this already in the last session, so we're not going to belabor that again. So out of 600,000 ahadith, 600,000 authentic hadith, all right? Bukhari, he wrote 7,275 in Sahih. Okay, so each of these hadith were rigorously tested for their authenticity before being placed in this book, in his Jama, to a degree that no one would question it. Okay, that was his objective. He wanted no hadith to be questionable in any way, shape, or form. The hadith has to be fully agreed upon. Okay, in fact, he went a step further that he would make ghusl, he would take a ritual bath, and he would pray 2 rak'ah of istikhara and makes of the dua of istikhara, okay, before including any hadith. All right, so that means he took a lot of baths, okay, and he prayed a lot of prayers in order to compile this book. After he compiled the book, and for the 16 years after that, he received approval from the hadith masters of his time, including Imam Ahmad, Ali ibn al-Madini, rahimahullah, and Yahya ibn Ma'in, rahimahullah, jami'an. So after the Quran, it is considered the most authentic text of Islam, this book. So, without a doubt, it is a very, very significant book, and there is no one who doubts it. And so, when you say that this hadith is found in Bukhari, nobody in the history of Islam questions it. Okay, took him 16 years to write the book. Okay, so as I told you, the total number of hadith is 9,000. Okay, among them is 7,397, which are marfu'. Meaning, what is marfu'? Who can remind me? To what? Elevated to who? So when we say marfu'a means it goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, okay? So it is there is a so we know, so this is not so remember the mu'allaq, okay, is the statement of a companion which is assumed to be heard from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all right, because of the content. Marfu', it is something that the companion says, indeed, I heard from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said, or I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam doing. Okay, mu'allaq would be that the companion is saying it, and it is understood that it's coming from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is back to science, the first semester. Total number of narrations without repetition is 2,602 or 2,761 if we look at the marfu' and the mawquf, okay? And so this is the number of hadith is 2,761. Again, there's going to be some minor, counts are going to be a little bit different wherever you look from. But we're looking at almost 2,800 hadith, okay? Without repetition. That's the number of hadith in this book. So you see here the level of precision and the effort that he made in boiling down 600,000 narrations to 2,800, approximately 2,800. Again, looking at trying to make this book concise. Okay. So There's 96 chapters of the book. It begins with the book, the beginning of Revelation, and it ends with the book of Tawheed. The number of shuyukh which are mentioned in the book, okay, that he took from is 289. And so the first hadith is, the first hadith in a number of hadith collections. حدثنا الحميدي عبد الله ابن الزبير حدثنا سفيان حدثنا عن يحيى ابن سعيد الأنصاري عن محمد ابن إبراهيم التيمي عن علقمة ابن وقاص الليثي عن عمر بن الخطاب أنه سمع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته لدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. Okay, so the hadith is all actions are judged according to their intention, and everyone will have that which they intended. So whoever intended migration for the sake of Allah and His Messenger, he will be rewarded accordingly. That his migration will be um, counted as something he did for Allah and His Messenger. But whoever migrated in order to gain some worldly benefit or to marry a woman, then the intention of his migration will be accordingly, or they'll be recorded accordingly. So this is the famous hadith, okay, that we know about. Now, let's go to the trial of Naisabur. So what happened was that Bukhari, of course, when he wrote this book, his he had already started to gain enormous, popularity. His reputation started to increase significantly, and people were starting to know all about him, and people were wishing to meet him. This great scholar of hadith. So he went to the city of Naisabur, okay, and it is mentioned that the people came out to meet him, so people knew that he was coming. And so the people, they literally lined the streets to see him when he entered. So he entered with fanfare, so to speak. People were waiting to meet him, people were waiting to see him. And so the entire city came out to greet him, for all intents. And we're not talking about a village of 300 people. We're talking about a major city, okay, with thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. So he entered with all of this, adulation and so forth. When he was giving his lessons, when he would teach the hadith in Naisabur, everybody came to his lesson. Everybody came to listen to him, meaning that nobody attended to any of the other scholars. All the other scholars, their halaqas became empty because everybody went to learn from Bukhari. Subhanallah. It's been narrated that his lessons had so many people in attendance that, a lot of any of you who have ever prayed in a very, very large gathering, okay, then you are maybe familiar with the concept of the relator, or the repeater. Supposedly, essentially, it's a repeater. So what happens if you're praying, let's say, in a congregation of 5,000 people? The people at the front, they can hear the imam. The people in the back, they cannot hear him. So what happens is when the imam is saying Allahu Akbar and Sami Allah liman hamida and so forth, the people in the back cannot hear. So what happens is they have a repeater. Okay, so they would have, and depending on the gathering, they would have multiple repeaters. Okay, so might have somebody in the 20th row. Okay, so when the imam says Allahu Akbar, that person who says very loudly Allahu Akbar, so the people behind can hear. Okay, so this is a repeater. And you might have more than one repeater depending on the size of the gathering. So this is something which is known in the prayer, in large gatherings of prayer. It's known, and this is what you hear when you hear the prayers in Mecca. it's essentially hearkening back to that. Of course, it's not necessary because they have loudspeakers, so there's no need for a repeater, but they continue that behavior. Okay, so you always hear the Imam say Allahu Akbar, and then the guy literally right behind him is saying Allahu Akbar, which is unnecessary because people, even outside of the haram, they can hear it because of the loudspeakers. But this is the case. This is what we call the human repeater. This is a rare case when you had a human repeater in a lesson, in a dars, in a halaqah, that they would have people sitting on the rooftop that would repeat what Bukhari was saying, so that because there were so many people that attended the halaqah, we're like talking thousands of people that attend the halaqah, and there's no loudspeaker, so only the people who are nearby to him, 10, 15 rows, they can hear. The people who are beyond that, they could not hear. So he would report the hadith, and there would be a repeater sitting on the roof of a house that was further back, that he would repeat the words of Imam Bukhari, okay, so that people further back could hear. Subhanallah. That's the size of his gathering, the size of his halaqah. Subhanallah. So imagine how the scholars that were living in Naisabur, how they felt about this. What do you think? What do you guys think? How do you think the local scholars they felt? Shaitan got to them. How? Jealousy. Very good. Jealousy. They're extremely jealous. That how come this this young guy, young punk, he comes into our town, and he's got like, 3,000, 4,000 people attending his halaqah. Nobody comes to my halaqah anymore, but I was around when he was a little kid, and I've been teaching hadith since he was a little kid, and this type of mentality, subhanallah. So what happened was one of the scholars that was in that town, the shaitan got to him, and he started spreading rumors about Bukhari. So he started saying that Bukhari believes the Quran was created. That was the fitna of that time. That people, that was kind of one of the controversies of the time. Was is the Quran the living speech of Allah, or is it something that Allah created? And we as Muslims, we believe that it is the living speech of Allah. It is not a creation of Allah, and so it is part of Him. And so they started spreading this rumor that Bukhari believes that the Quran is created. Okay. And as a result of that, and again, you look at how fickle human beings are. Nobody confirmed this, but people, when they heard that Bukhari believes that, they started abandoning him. And his halaqas went from having thousands of people to literally zero. And in one of the stories, it's mentioned that Bukhari, he came to teach, his halaqah, and nobody showed up. Not a single person. Absolutely nobody. And yet, because he had the intention, again, you look at these types of people that they combine knowledge with action. Okay. So he said, I came with the intention to teach this hadith. So he started narrating. So a man walked by and he saw Bukhari sitting by himself narrating. He said, who are you narrating to? He said, I came with an intention. I don't want to change my intention. So after coming to that town, that literally the streets were lined with people to meet him, he left Naisabur, and not a single person told him salam. Not a single person, told him goodbye or kind of wished him well. Okay, he went back to his home of Bukhara, his hometown of Bukhara, and when he went back to his hometown, he faced another trial that the governor of Bukhara, upon hearing that this famous scholar Bukhari was back, okay, he said, "I want you to come to my house to teach my kids hadith." Subhanallah, this man who was teaching thousands of people, now he is being ordered by some governor, some local politician, come to my house and teach my kids. Saying after he was teaching scholars, Subhanallah. So he refused. He said, knowledge, you go to it, it doesn't come to you. And this is one of the principles of Islam. Knowledge, you go to it, it doesn't come to you. And so he said, if your kids they want to learn, they come to me. I don't go to them. And so he had a lot of problems with that governor, and so he ended up leaving even Bukhara, okay, due to the trouble that he had there. And then he went to Kharteng, another city on the outskirts of Samarkand. So I told you in the beginning when we looked at the map, Samarkand. So on the outskirts of Samarkand, there he lived, and there he died. Rahimahullah ta'ala. He died, and it is it has been mentioned that he died alone. He died, and nobody even knew that he died except for several days. That they had some people they didn't see him, and they went to see what happened to him, and they found him that he died. So he died, rahimahullah ta'ala, alone. And so you look, subhanallah, at the intense fitna that came to him at the end of his life. And this is the nature that, again, we have to remember that as Muslims, we remember the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, أشد الناس بلاءً الأنبياء ثم الأمثل ثم الأمثل. That the people who are most severely tried are the prophets, and then those closest to them, and then those closest to them. So these severe trials, they come to people who they are doing things, they're doing the right thing, generally. And that's what happens. Shaitan sends all of his armies against these people to do anything possible to stop them. Okay? But Shaitan couldn't stop him, because he already did the work that Allah put him on this earth to do, which is the compilation of Sahih al-Bukhari and the compilation of the Hadith of Prophet ﷺ. In addition to, of course, he wrote many other books. One of the very famous books of Bukhari is Al-Adab al-Mufrad, okay? And his book of manners that um, that is um, also commonly taught and commonly studied today. And so, yes, here your point is that Allah tested him both ways. He tested him with popularity, and he tested him with loneliness. The people they rejected him. So he was tested by everybody loving him, and then tested by everybody rejecting him. Subhanallah. But again, when this is and it is certainly it's will affect any human being, and he was affected by it. But he maintained he was true to his core until he passed. هذا والله أعلى وأعلم. This is some of the story of Imam Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala. Uh, I hope inshallah it is something that benefited you. And so I try to extend it out, because most of us, we don't know this story, and we don't know much about him. All we know about him is the book. But I wanted you to inshallah take benefit from the lessons in his life. And I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to benefit us by that. Allahumma ameen. And that is right, Sister Layla, that it is the plight of the true colors. Absolutely. You look at people who do good work, subhanAllah, it's almost a sign, that they're doing the right thing, is that the opposition that they face, subhanAllah. Are there any questions on that material? All right. If there are no questions, inshallah. Again, I wanted today to be a little bit light, because I know the students in Eraser, they're going to have their midterm today. So, Zahira, may Allah Azza wa Jalla make it easy upon you and all the other students, inshallah, to give you success in the examination, inshallah, in the midterm exams. And so you will be receiving your midterm exam. Um, any tips? I think the hardest one, that I think that you just be very review the last lecture in Usul al-Hadith, because that one it was one of the ones that is it was intense. I think the last two, make sure that you review them very, very well, because that one will be you will be questioned on that, on the material that was in those last two. And it was a bit, I know that was a bit of a challenge. And if you have questions, you can always email me, inshallah, before you receive the midterm. And then also, inshallah, because I asked this question in the class, be very familiar with your hadith types. The different types of hadith collections. Be very, very aware of the different types of compilations, whether it's Musnad, whether it's Jama, whether it's uh, Sunan, and so forth that you be. Huh? No, so the marfu' is the type, the classification of the hadith itself, not the type of books. But be very aware of the different types of books of hadith books that there are, so that because that might be on your questions. It is a lot of terminologies, and so remember that terminologies is how we can move forward. If we don't know the terminology, you cannot go forward. It's like a doctor who's you wouldn't find a doctor talking to another doctor and saying, yeah, like that long bone, the one in the leg, that long one. Yeah, when it you wouldn't this is not a doctor. You have to know terminology, right? So you would have to so of course for a person to be able to function, to be able to understand, the Islamic sciences, especially when they're reading them, they have to be familiar with the terminology. So when you see a sheikh, for example, talking about uh, mukhalafa, or you're talking about, as an example, النسخ, you know, this ayah is mansukha, for example, you have to know what he's talking about. You can't say, I don't know what this term is, or I'm going to go have to look it up or something like that. So, that's the importance of making sure you know terminology. So, I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla, inshallah, to make it easier for you, and I hope that I did my job in terms of explaining things to you all in a good way that will make it easier for you, inshallah. I am sure that you will do well. But those would be my tips, inshallah, for you. Otherwise, inshallah, we'll meet up, inshallah, next week. So next week we'll go back to the three structure. We will have hadith, we'll have Quran. I'm sorry, Quran, hadith, and then usul, and we'll start from that next week, inshallah. Eid Mubarak to you, sir, sister. جزاكم الله خير. جزانا وإياكم وبارك الله فيكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Sister Layla, if there's no questions from your group, please, then I'll end. Alhamdulillah. I'm really glad that they benefited, inshallah. May Allah Azza wa Jal continue to benefit you all. Allahumma ameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.